How you doing, man? I'm Gil Roth, and you're listening to a bonus episode of my Virtual Memories Show podcast. This is a COVID check-in episode where I record with a past guest of the podcast to find out how they're holding up during the pandemic. As far as how I'm doing, yesterday's strategic plan meeting went well. If you're listening to these daily, if you're not, I had a strategic plan meeting at my day job. If we make it past the pandemic, it looks like my trade association has some good ideas for approaching the next few years. So that's a plus. I also managed to get in a good run that morning, so it put me in a good mood for the rest of the day. I'm also near the end of Kurt Anderson's American history book, Fantasyland, which means I will actually have finished a book since this whole craziness really took off in the U.S. about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So nothing too disheartening today. Which is a good thing, because today's show celebrates the April Fool's birthday of legendary author Samuel R. Delany, better known as Chip. I've known Chip for 20-plus years, and we usually get together for a birthday brunch the weekend before or after. But, of course, our plans got derailed this time. So I thought it would be a good idea to have him on the check-in show, wish him a happy birthday, and find out how he's getting by. Now, Chip turned 78 today, so if you are on Facebook, which is where he spends his time as far as social media goes, I don't, which becomes a point of contention during this conversation, look him up and wish him a good one and say, Gil says hello. Chip also has a brand new website up, samueldelany.com. I'll spell it out at the end of the episode, but Chip also spells it during the conversation, as is his wont. If you don't know Chip's books like Nova, The Einstein Intersection, Dahlgren, The Madman, which I published or reissued through my old publishing company back in 2000, as well as others, you are in for a treat. Chip is one of the few people I've ever met for whom the term genius actually applies. It gets thrown out, everybody's a genius. Chip is actually possessed by genius. Anyway, as caveats go, he, despite being a genius, does not own an external microphone for his computer, so he was using the onboard mic, and that means the audio has some dropouts because of the I/O function with the computer. Otherwise, it's all good, man. Here's Chip. So how are you doing?
Pretty well when all is said and done. I seem to be working on some fiction, which I can't talk about because that's the way it goes with fiction. But it's, as of this morning, it was coming fairly well, so I'm feeling in a pretty good mood. And my assistant Bill is here, and we're doing our usual afternoon email thing. And I got started working, as I usually do, about as I don't usually do, but as I did for the first time in a long time, got started working at about 3:30 this morning, which is often when I feel the best.
Yeah. Are you waking up at that hour generally still? Or?
No, generally I wake up. I've been waking up at 6:30, or I wake up always at about 3:30, but rarely do I get out of the bed and actually try to get anything done at that time. But today I decided, since I wake up at the time anyway, why not give it a try? So that's what I did.
Make the most of it. Has the whole situation been screwing up your cycle or your regular daytime schedule or routine? I know you're not, teaching and don't have the whole work situation, but
yeah, I may be I don't know this for sure, but I may be one of those people who operates fairly well in chaos.
Yeah.
And
I've experienced that with you before. Yes.
Yes. So the very fact that there is a certain amount of chaos around gives me something to fight against and focus on what I'm doing, and that's always good. So I have good things to say about that.
Now, this episode's going to air tomorrow morning when it's your birthday. Any any virtual birthday plans? Any real birthday plans?
No, I had a new young friend of mine was going to throw a birthday party, but decided to cut it out, to cancel it because of the coronavirus problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that maybe not the best time to have a party. So so I guess myself and Rachel Maddow will be more or less alone, or at least case I will be alone just with Dennis, my partner, and we can sit around and stare moodily into each other's eyes, which is something we very rarely do.
Yeah, how's any stir crazy vibe from either of you? I know Dennis also. There's a degree
I think Dennis has a few, but I have been as I get older and older, and now that I will be 78, I don't particularly yearn to get out all that much. I hope I get some work done. That would make me feel the best to go back to the piece I'm working on and try to get a little further along with that. I will feel very good. If that's what happens.
Yeah. Does this whole situation match up to any prelude to dystopia that you've ever written or read? Do you look at it in terms of go on. Yeah.
No, not particularly. I've read things about the flu, about the flu and its outcome in what was that?
18, yeah.
1918, yeah. And what was the a very impressive movie I remember, I can remember that it had Judith Malina and Robert De Niro both in it, called Awakenings.
Oh yeah, the Oliver Sacks one.
The Oliver Sacks one, which I liked very much, and but unless I come down with it myself, we now have hand sanitizer in the house. I just sent someone a picture of of the hand sanitizer that we now have in the house, which I've never had around before. Somebody who's documenting, trying to document what this means for the LBJQ, LBGJQ, et cetera, that soup community. And so I sent him a picture of our big bottle of hand sanitizer on the sink. Other than that, that's about all I can think of in terms of changes.
And any
has it made any difference in your life?
Well, as far as I go, Amy and I both work at home. I live in a relatively not quite rural, but almost in the woods thing. So I don't have to leave the house much. And, the day job, the lobbying stuff is taken care of by a firm I use down in Washington. And, other than that, it's pretty quiet. I haven't seen my old man since early February, but, he's 82 years old, poor health. I don't want to. Oh, dear. We don't want to know that I'm that I'm a disease vector by accident and kill him.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the thing is, my health is pretty good. There are short-term memory problems that make writing actually very difficult, but it means that I have to do a lot of outlining and making notes to remind myself to cover certain things in the story, and the result is that the action tends to slow down and not let it get too slow, and all the problems that that writers always have that are so personal that they don't really constitute anything that could be shop talk.
Right. Counter the writers at work Paris Review type thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see the piece that I was entailed with in the Paris Review recently? He asked, as though you might have.
I'd read the interview from a while back. Were you in another one recently?
Well, this one is an article by a young writer named Tonian Fernandez.
Oh,
And it was not my interview in the Paris Review, but it was a conversation between myself and playwright Jeremy Harris,
yeah.
the
Have to
guy
go check it out.
Slave Play, and that was published a couple of weeks ago. Yeah,
So
it's not.
You have to do a better job publicizing, Chip.
I think I put it on. I posted
I
it
know.
on Facebook for a while, and
I know. I'm the one guy who's
note.
off of Facebook at this point.
Yes,
so.
of course. Yes, so what? You don't count then.
Yeah,
No,
see?
of course you count.
Yeah. But as far as, sort of meta thinking about all this stuff, comparisons with what you went through in the 80s during the era with AIDS, any thinking along those lines at this point, or do you?
I was very fortunate in that I survived the AIDS, thing. With I was just very lucky in that in the way that the trajectory of the virus was what it was.
Sure.
And so it missed me pretty much entirely. And although I had a lot of sex,
Yeah.
but there were a lot of people who didn't miss entirely. And that's that, I don't know whether my tendency not to go out will help me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see that many people. So we'll see, and I hope Dennis and I survive once again. We're trying to follow the rules. And, who knows? Maybe there will be a vaccine in the not too distant future.
Yeah, that's part of my day job.
I mean year and a half. I have no illusions of it being any faster than that. I'm sure that's the minimum.
John, there's guys who are hyping their own ability to get it done quicker, but no, that's Dr. Fauci had it right. It's pretty much year to year and a half. But
right, exactly, yeah.
If they actually work, yeah.
Yeah, again, if they actually do it. I have a young friend, acquaintance, I should say, from the international science fiction community who lives in China.
Mm-hmm.
What is her name again, Bill?
Regina.
Regina
Wang, I think.
Regina Wang, who is sending me a thermometer and also an oximeter. I think that's oximeter.
Yeah, that pulse oximeter. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so which is very nice because it means, and so I just have to survive a couple of, I can, then start taking my temperature and making sure I'm okay. I don't know. And as I said, that my personal challenge right now is, can I get this story I'm working on written? And that's like a problem, a daily problem until it's finished. And it keeps, as they say, keeps me off the street, which today has an entirely different meaning.
Yeah.
And the one that it used to have.
Yeah. Do you have any information overload thing online? Do you have to disconnect periodically, or have you been pretty good about not constantly refreshing the feeds and seeing what the news is, etc.?
No, I try. One of the things I realize is that most people, including my assistant and a couple of people whose what they have to say in the world I really respect, don't look at the public newscasts at all anymore and just read.
Mm-hmm.
I have never been a big newspaper reader at the best of times. Although but it's harder and harder for me to do that at this point. So I just but I wish there was a newscast that I could listen to that I felt really comfortable with. And at this point, I don't feel really comfortable with any of them, although I have a certain fondness for Rachel Maddow. We share a birthday. Her birthday is April 1st, as is mine. But other than that, even, as well-intentioned as I would like to think she is, all the stations have their biases. Sure. And a lot of those biases simply have to do with the fact that they are big industries.
Yeah, it's about advertising.
There's no way, there's nobody who does anything that, I wish I could think do you have any newscasts that you watch that you think would be worthwhile? I listen to Democracy Now! From time to time, which I think is, better than nothing.
Yeah, no, I overload on Twitter and everything else and need to periodically cut myself off of everything for an hour or two here and there. But I've got no advice for anybody else.
I am not on Twitter. One of the reasons I'm on Facebook so much is because I'm not on Twitter at all.
Yeah, it's a fire hose,
Pardon me?
It's a fire hose of information and opinion and bullshit, and the same way a lot of the other internet or the rest of the internet can be. But
yeah.
So I participate or get deluged with that, and then just go outside for a walk around my wooded neighborhood and hope that it's not too airborne, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one thing I don't do. I tell everybody that I'm turning into my grandmother, who in the last years of her life, she lived to 104, bless her. But she, around 75, 76, she stopped going outside. And you couldn't get her to go outside for anything. I used to say to her, I'd say, Grandma, come on, let's just go downstairs. There were benches outside of our building in where she lived in Morningside Garden for much of that time. And I would say, let's go down. We'll just sit on the bench outside and get some air. No. She was happy there. And I now know exactly I feel like I know exactly how she feels. I just don't want to go out. I will make myself, if it's a paying gig, and I'm going with someone else, but I just don't find myself going, I don't find myself going of my own free will, as it were.
Yeah. No, hey, let's go out and do blah, blah, blah. So,
right.
Good. Now, you're able to focus on writing at this point. Reading, are you?
That's
doing
hard.
A ton? Yeah, it's always. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
No, that's hard for me. Reading is very difficult and slow, and it's hard for me to finish anything. I mean, even good articles, I find myself not staying with till the very end, and it's the rare book whose last page I turn over.
Yeah, I've been in a bind myself. I've been unable during this whole self-isolation thing to just buckle down, and it makes me think I need to go back to some sort of comfort reading book for my past, and maybe get used to that again before diving into some of the other stuff that I've been kind of unfocused on.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, TV binging, you and Dennis?
Yes.
Yeah. Fill us in. What's your media consumption?
Well, I tend to look at old movies, and then every once in a while something new comes along. I looked at the whole first season of Tiger King and enjoyed it immensely. And even it was first it was reviewed by a poet whose work I like very much, named Lonely Christopher. And then my assistant, who's sitting right here at my side, Bill, he looked at it and he liked it. And so I watched it and I thought it was quite fun. And so, that's the That's the last thing I looked at. I was looking at Leonardo da Vinci's Demons, but that is so anti-historical that it becomes impossible to swallow after a while. Leonardo da Vinci was not a swordsman, and he had a bad affair with Lucretia Borgia. It's given the we know he was gay, we know he was a sedentary, peaceful guy, he did do war engineering for the Medicis and the Sforzas, and I love a little note that was actually found in the margin of one of his journals. The Medicis made me, and the Medicis destroyed me. Which, because I don't know when the date he made it, I imagine it was fairly late on in his career. I have a general idea of what he meant, but it's hard to say. And of course, he died in France under the protection of Francis I, I think. I may have that wrung. And at this
point, you have to watch the rest of the series. I'm just kidding.
No, well, the series is all about a young Leonardo who just makes war machines and runs around having swords fights with people, which is just not what he did. There is a reference to a mystery that has to do with his mother that is based on something that holds some the story that generated Freud's book Leonardo da Vinci and a Memory of His Childhood, but it's kind of where things, where all truth vanishes from the series. And as I said, and every time he picks up, you see what you get a chance to see probably what some of the costumes and some of the architecture looked like in Florence during the time he was there. But they don't show one of the most important places in the world for him, which is, the Or Saint Michel, which is where they should be having a lot of his, they should start things, which is what one of my favorite and Freud's favorite novels about Leonardo da Vinci, The Romance of Leonardo da Vinci, actually starts with. That while it is a fantasy, is probably much more true to life than this foray, which eventually I just gave up on. It's just beyond what I could swallow.
Understood. A few more months of quarantine. We'll see if you come back to it. But
yeah, I may. Don't be surprised if I do.
Yeah. Last message for listeners and your readers who are presumably going to chime in to listen.
Well, one of the things I now have a website, which I am very proud of. Bill and I put it together, and I would suggest that anybody who is interested in me and my work go to my website, which is SamuelDelany.com or www.samueldelany.com. And that's DELANY with no E before the Y, something that I always say automatically.
Understood. And I'll have links to it in the episode for sure. I think what's great about it is that anybody who knows you and your work is going to love the fact that there's actually a menu item for errata. Because, having edited your books in the past and having all those multiple corrections and edits come in over time, I think it's very Delany-esque to have that in the menu bar.
Oh, so you've looked at the website that I'm
just checked it out earlier today. So
yeah, I went to a party a couple of days ago on Zoom, which was an interesting experience. And while I was there, an older woman asked me something about my writing. So I said, well, there's this website. So she, right in the middle of the party, she went and decided she wanted to buy a book. And a few people at the party had actually read some of my books and made what I thought were very sensible suggestions about where to start. Well, why don't you get Nova or something? And she, right there in the middle of the party, said, I'm buying Hog. And so did. I think. I have no reason to believe that she didn't do what she said. And when it gets there, when and if it gets to wherever she is, I have no idea what she's going to think of it.
What? He seemed like such a nice young man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, Chip, thanks so much for coming on, and we will get together for your birthday.
Thank you so much for having me, Gil. Nice to talk with you.
I will take you out for lunch, dinner, whatever. So be well.
When all
Thanks.
this is over, I hope we can do that. I look forward to it. I was looking forward to it when you first suggested it, and I'm sad I had to stop it, although I understand.
That was Samuel R. Delany on his birthday. Go check out his new website, samueldelany.com, which has links to a lot of his books, his Facebook feed, his bio, and plenty more. And that's SamuelDelany.com. So, like he said, no E before the Y. There are links in the episode text and the show notes page to both the website and to some of his great books. And we will be back daily, I guess, with more of these COVID check-ins. If you want to send me a little update to read on the air or have something you want to share with the listeners, let me know and we'll set something up. I'm at groth18, that's GROTH 18 at gmail.com. You can find contact info at our sites, chimeraobscura.com/VM or vmspod.com. And if you go to chimeraobscura.com/VM, you'll also see in the menu bar the COVID-19 sessions. And that provides links to all of these ones that are, all of these COVID check-ins that we've done over the last week plus. If you're interested in the setup that I'm using for remote podcasting instead of the in-person stuff that I've been doing for 8 years, I guess, I am using a service called Zencastr to do this. It's spelled Zencastr. So Zencastr, except there's no final E. It's $20 a month, but my Patreon supporters more than cover it, especially since I'm no longer spending money on parking and tolls and everything to record those in-person episodes. So as far as Patreon and other crowdfunding things go, don't give me any money. Go support the artists and writers and other creative people and people in need. I'm sure you are coming across these things through social media and other sources. Give. And if you can't give because of your own financial straits, don't feel guilty. We're all just getting by at this point. So I am Gil Roth, and this was a bonus episode of my Virtual Memories show. Thanks so much for listening. Keep the conversation going, stay safe, and wash your damn hands.